But yeah, I'm curious, like, where do you think that all that like scientific achievement is? Like, who's studying this stuff?
I think it's,
who's taking it to the next level.
Part of me is thinking it's happening in a different form.
Okay.
A lot of this used to happen through universities, and you'd publish a paper and then go through that channel. This was with Bell Labs, but there's still a lot of papers that are being written, but it's happening at such a high volume that it's hard to keep track of the main monumental ones.
Hey.
Yo. Welcome back. Welcome back to Founders Drive.
That's right.
Where we study founders and we apply what we've learned. And we do this for you. We do this so that way you don't have to go through and do all this homework. You can just benefit from listening to us. How convenient is that?
I do it a little bit for me too.
A little bit?
I like learning about this stuff.
Okay, I do it for me too. No, but
welcome.
Yeah, we're welcome. Yeah. We're back. We're talking about Claude Shannon. This is back-to-back Claudes.
Back-to-back Michigan Claudes.
Back-to-back Michigan Claudes. These are two of the most... This is funny. So a lot of people are talking about how artificial intelligence and personal branding, i.e. marketing, are two of the most important fields in the current day right now.
Right. You
have to be able to be adept in at least one of those two areas.
Right.
And I find it very... It's amusing to me how we did back-to-back episodes on Claude Hopkins, who's probably the father of modern advertising, modern marketing. And if you don't know anything about him, check out the last episode. And then we're doing this other episode on Claude Shannon, who is the father of the information age. Basically laid the groundwork with his insights for modern day computing and artificial intelligence. Fun fact, if you've been on Claude AI, it's named after Claude Shannon. So that's who we're going into today. Probably one of the most valuable up-and-coming companies right now in the AI space is named after the person that we're talking about today. His work that he did and the impact that he left behind him, his legacy. So
it's funny, it's like the yin, the yang, right? The marketing, the tech. If you only needed 3 Claudes in the world, you had the marketing Claude, the technology Claude, and then of course you need Claude Code. Just to make sure you can do everything.
And it's I'm gonna name my son Claude.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's gonna be the 3rd Michigan Claude. This is gonna be a black Claude.
Ooh. Okay.
Black Claude.
Okay.
But so we have a pretty fun episode today. It's really interesting. He's not somebody that had a very he didn't promote his career, and he in fact tried to remain in the shadows, keep his private life private, and so there's not a lot of just public information about him. There's not a lot of interviews. He turned down a lot of interviews.
Right.
But he left monumental pieces of work that can't be ignored.
Almost as famous as Einstein.
People call him
should be as famous as Einstein.
A lot of people say that he should be as famous as Einstein. There's some people that wrote a book recently, within the last 10 years. It was, I think, called The Mind at Play. I haven't read it, but I was listening to some interviews by these guys because they were, Claude Shannon researchers, and they were saying the exact same thing. This guy should be as well known as Einstein, but nobody knows about him. We should be talking about this guy more. But it seems like he's getting his flowers now.
Yeah, especially when you name a product after him that literally has gone and changed the world. Certainly gives a lot of credence to the contributions that Claude had during his lifetime.
So why don't we jump into the man, the myth, the legend, Claude Shannon. So Claude Shannon was born in Michigan, raised in Gaylord, Michigan.
Gaylord, Michigan, yes. Which
I have some family over there.
I do. I currently have people at the same high school that he went to high school at.
Incredible. Shout out to Michigan, man. Shout out to Michigan. We've covered Henry Ford. We've covered, again, Claude Hopkins, Claude Shannon. There's more.
Oh my gosh, the entire Motown series.
Oh yeah.
We've been here with Gilbert.
Dan
Gilbert,
people are sleeping on Michigan. Stop sleeping on Michigan. So He was raised in Gaylord, Michigan, and his father was in business. His mother was a teacher at Gaylord High School. He was not super remarkable as a child in terms of what some of these other people have done, but he was a smart kid.
Certainly, I think ahead of the pack.
Definitely. Well, let me say this. I say that he wasn't remarkable, but he actually was, because he ended up graduating high school at 16.
Yeah, a little bit ahead.
Yeah, and enrolling at the University of Michigan at a very young age. And another notable story is that he created this, he took the barbed wire from the fence and created a
telegram between two houses.
Yeah, and that's how he was talking with his homie when they went home at night. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
barbed wire is a telegram source. That's pretty cool.
And started sending back little telegrams. They're like, yo, we are so advanced right now. I am routinely, like, I think often about how people in the past that we research would process today.
The technology, the advancement, all that stuff.
Man, it's like, it's just so far removed from the world that they grew up in. I mean, he was born in 1912.
Right.
So it's over 100 years ago. But he was dreaming of today, and in a lot of respects, we're living in a world that's a product of his dream.
Yeah, we haven't even maximized his dream yet.
No.
You know, it's like, he's one of the people, I think, that would look at what we have today and be like, oh, that's a logical conclusion of what, like, you guys are just building on top of what I did.
Yeah, and here's where we're going to go next.
Exactly.
We're looking at my predictions, and this is him back in what? Like, at that point, he probably would have been a little bit more into his career, but point being is that,
30s and 40s,
we're not even living out the full vision of how he imagined machines to develop and grow. So 16, he ends up enrolling at the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
And he ends up running into a situation because he doesn't really know what he wants to study. It's between mathematics and engineering. Yeah. And right now those go hand in hand. But
they didn't.
Back then people were like, bro, what? What? We don't understand. Why? You gotta pick one, sir. And he was like, no, I'm picking both. Yep. Both is a good word.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is it ended up being to his benefit. I think there's a through line with his career where he would take from different fields and find the middle ground, the border, the edge that allowed him to see with more insight, to pull insights that were really applicable. And
that's some super secret game right there too, which we're definitely gonna go into.
Oh, we have to. We have to, because his mind was, I think a lot of it was just the way that he positioned himself. So he got a different view that allowed him to make insights that other people hadn't seen. And I think that that type of unification is a lot of why people compare him to Einstein.
Pulling from different disciplines to create something new.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the epitome of creativity. Yeah. But he decided to follow his curiosity in both areas, and that was huge because he made a huge splash when he was at Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah. He so when he was there, he discovered the work of George Boole. This is a Boolean Logic, and it's basically like symbolic logic. You can put symbols around different logical operators, and then what he did is he ended up writing what was interesting is back then almost nobody in engineering knew about this Boolean logic, and so that's basically like and, or, and not. And pretty much everybody in engineering didn't really know about this, but because he was in mathematics, he was exposed to this idea of Boolean logic, again invented by George Boole in the 1800s. So this is about 100 years later, where he's saying, oh yeah, this is a mathematical concept.
We can apply this,
We can apply this in electronics.
Yes, electronic currents specifically.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, essentially putting gates into your electric circuits to control the flow of electricity. And so you can do gates where it's this wire and that wire, this wire but not this wire, this wire or this wire, right? And so you can send electric currents through a board that have these gates on them, and then the result of wherever the electricity ends up can give you a final state, and you can read data off of that, essentially. This leads into some of the next kind of inventions, I guess you could call it, with bits and stuff like that. But it all starts with understanding that you can do logical gates on electrical currents.
Logical gates on electrical currents. That's, we could go in so many different areas with that, but we'll keep it tight. And so yeah, that was big, and something that we could also go into with Super Secret, and I'm actually going to make a note of this because there's a few different topics that I want to get into with Super Secret, is the idea of he's speaking two languages. He's speaking the engineering language and the mathematical language.
Right.
And I think it's really important to think about it as languages, because when you speak something fluently like he did, you can start to see you can start to understand different concepts and commit almost like idea arbitrage.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value in being able to do that.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing too that happens, and you see this sometimes with language. You'll have someone from maybe a foreign country is we have a saying for what that is.
Yeah.
And you just don't have a saying for that in English.
Yeah.
And it's a language barrier, because they've found a way to communicate what's happening in words that we don't have.
Yeah.
And so that might be a good example of that arbitrage.
Yeah, I think it's a great example.
You're referencing.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about how some languages don't quite capture the concepts in another language. That's huge. But I think seeing it in a practical way is really helpful too. And I think it's an argument for generalists and not just the people that specialize. And that's, I think, a pretty important thing too, because there's a guy that comes up here. We'll talk about him in a second. Vannevar Bush, and that was in the more doctoral era of Claude Shannon's life. But he just had an argument against specialization. And I think that we lived in a world that was very geared towards specialization, especially I think us growing up in middle school, teen, elementary years, etc. But I think we're moving more into this whole creative generalist space now, where people might have a focus, but it's a focus that's mixed with different disciplines, and that's what makes people more unique now. So
I also think that's just been a through line for entrepreneurs for a long time.
Yeah.
It's more pronounced now, because you can use AI to build things and do all these technical things that you probably didn't have before. But yeah, I think it's been a through line of just you just need to do everything in the business to make it successful.
It's kind of like a forced situation. Okay, so after he graduated from the University of Michigan, he
took an internship.
Yes.
Is that where you go?
Well, he went there. Are you talking about with the differential?
Bell Labs.
No, I was talking about when he went to MIT.
Ooh.
And he was doing his master's thesis there.
Oh yeah.
This was an extension of the learnings that he had around the Boolean Logic, and this is more in the application of that.
So he actually had a Bell Labs internship, which, for anyone who's been following along with all the greatest scientists, Bell Labs loves to get you the talent.
Yeah.
There's such a concentration of talent at Bell Labs throughout the early 20th century that I think it's important to call out that he was in rooms with some of the smartest people in an employed setting, where they were actually able to take the papers that he's writing in college and actually put them into use.
Yeah. So what he did though, just because he was routinely surrounded by some of the smartest people in history.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was reading off a list of the people that he was around later in his career, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, what? This is crazy.
Some of the names that you hear about.
Yeah, you're like, that's insane. Some of the horsepower in this specific space. But right before he got to Bell Labs, he was at MIT, and at this point he's this was in 1936. So he is what, 24?
36 would have been 16. No,
24.
Yeah, 24.
This one, he's at MIT, he's doing his master's, and he is he was working on the differential analyzer, which it was an analog machine, and it used hundreds of switches and relays organized into these like complex configurations. And he basically said, look, we can use this whole idea of like these logical gates to control these circuits. And that was, again, revolutionary for the time.
Yeah.
He realized that 0 and 1 mapped onto the on-off behavior of the circuits. Again, it sounds pretty obvious now, but making that connection back then is what changed computing forever. And then he wrote a paper called The Symbolic Analysis of Relay and Switching Circuits, and that was pretty monumental. It wasn't even the most famous paper that he wrote, but it was pretty monumental. At the time, they called it, Howard Gardner of Harvard called it possibly the most important and also the most famous master's thesis of the century.
Yeah.
And again, not even his main delivery.
Exactly, yeah.
So what was interesting too is around this time, his mentor there, Vannevar Bush, pushed him to do his PhD in theoretical genetics. He was like, you don't know anything about it. You don't know anything about it, but you have a smart mind. I want to see how far we can go with this.
Yeah.
Pushing for that more generalist approach, like follow your curiosity, follow what excites you, and again, the theme that we see across all of these founders. But he wrote a paper in Algebra for Theoretical Genetics. He didn't end up staying in the space, but he basically arrived at conclusions that other people in the field did independently, just kind of dabbling.
Right.
So,
yeah, the kind of math that was in those papers it's incredible that you can just kind of enter the space and just be like, yep, I'm going to contribute here, and it's like legitimate contributions.
Yeah. And then he said, all right, I'm bouncing, I'm going back to engineering.
Yeah.
So then he ends up after that going into the Bell Labs. But actually, even before Bell Labs, he got a National Research Fellowship at Princeton's Institute of Advanced Study. That's 1940 to 1941. He spent a year there, and there he was with the likes of John von Neumann. This is the inventor of game theory, of, I mean, so many different things in the mathematical space. He worked with, I say game theory just because it's fresh in mind for me right now, and I'm an econ guy. Albert Einstein, of course, the
physics.
Yeah, the GOAT.
Yep.
Herman Weil.
I don't know.
I'm not really. Yeah.
I don't know that name as much, but I do know like Alan Turing.
Alan Turing. You met him, I think, a little bit later.
It would be a little bit later. Yep.
Kurt Gödel.
Okay.
Which is another one of those like giants that basically he had this proof that math was incomplete.
Yeah.
The incomplete theorem. Like, you can. Yeah, that's another episode, but
another rabbit hole.
Yeah. And then there's also just other giants that were there. I think Feynman was also there at some point. I might be wrong on that.
I'm not sure, but I mean, powerhouses.
Yeah. I mean, but it's enough if you just have Albert Einstein, Kurt Gödel, and these other guys that we're talking about. John von Neumann.
I'm not even sure I know of a concentration of that kind of mind power today.
No.
Maybe Elon has something like that in one of his labs.
Maybe like the PayPal mafia.
But they're not concentrated anymore.
But I mean, in terms of like a moment in history where you have
we're losing that superpower. We need to bring all the minds back together.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, in an academic setting too, that's incredible. So there's a lot to peel back, and there's a lot that just happened early on in his career. But then this sets up when he went to Bell Labs, which
for
you were
full time.
About. Yeah.
Well, he had an internship coming out of college, and then he went to the whole Princeton and MIT stuff, and then I believe he came back for a full-time job there at Bell Labs, where he began. I believe this is where he had the work for his famous paper. Was that at Bell Labs? Or was that at MIT?
No, it was Bell Labs.
I believe it was Bell Labs, where he gets into, I mean, arguably the most notable contribution of his lifetime.
Yeah.
The mathematical theory of communication, which is it's building on top of the logic of using logic gates and electricity, and actually going from the raw bytes to information, being able to store information digitally instead of in an analog signal where you just lose it. Being able to store data, being able to read back data, is really the basis of this paper, and he did that by manipulating what he introduced as were bits, right? A 0, a 1 in a repeating sequence can give you information, and so there's a lot in that paper. There's a lot of stuff that we could cover, but I think the most important thing is it sets up the foundation for all of computers and technology as we know it from, I would say, the 1940s, which was right around when he published it.
Yeah.
That's wild. We're talking we're in the middle of World War II, and we're publishing a paper that's going to be the genesis of everything that we have today. Yeah. Large language models, self-driving cars, cell phones, everything, an iPod.
Yeah. And it was a surprisingly fluid read for how technically impactful it was.
Yeah.
And so a bit, I remember you corrected me on this a while back, was the term was invented by John Tukey.
Yeah, technically the bit was before Claude Shannon, but there are some people that say a Tukey bit's different than a Claude Shannon bit. There's some people that say that.
Okay, what's the difference between that?
Most people would say that a Tukey bit represented a state of of just a binary, whereas a Shannon bit actually holds information.
Okay.
Given a long enough sequence, I can actually tell you, oh, this is the color blue. Versus a different bit would just be an on or off state.
Yeah.
And so it's semantics. I think he did give credit in the paper to a previous researcher.
Yeah.
But it's largely accredited to Shannon.
Yeah.
Claude.
Because he put it to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so a bit is a binary digit, yes, no, 0, 1, on, off, and keeping track of that is a way of reducing uncertainty, because if you can store something in a state, or if you can keep track of what using that on-off logic, then you're reducing your uncertainty because you can reference it. It's pretty, obvious when you think about that. But then what's interesting is the link of that process, storing that and calling that reduction of uncertainty information. That's how he had defined it, as information is the reduction of uncertainty. And so then you start saying, okay, well, if I can store multiple bits, then I can store more information. And of course, like you just said, if you start storing thousands, millions, billions of bits, then we can start to store a lot of information and abstract that information into more meaningful pieces of information. And what's really cool is that the paper that he put out is called A Mathematical Theory of Communication. I think it was later updated to The Mathematical Theory of Communication.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that the idea was, how do you send one message over a noisy channel where you can interfere with the signal to another location and maintain the integrity of that message?
Yes.
It's so interesting, because it's the through line when you go all the way back to when he took that barbed wire and he sent messages back and forth with his friend. It's played out early in his life. But then also Bell Labs was the arm of AT&T, and they were just very, very leading in the time, but it was basically just like a communication company. So it was also in line with the work that he was doing.
Very much so, yeah. There's so much to be learned from this.
Yeah.
That we're going to spend a significant amount of time in the super secret on this. But something else to kind of put it into perspective. The reason that this is important is obviously because every time that we communicate, there is loss.
Yeah.
Every time you say a sentence, it's going to be interpreted in a different way. It's going to be used in a different context. It's going to be heard differently. And so you lose the meaning of what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
That, for computers, is essentially removed with this mathematical model by saying, no, if I send you a 1, you're going to receive a 1. If I send you a 0, you're going to receive a 0. And there are tips and tricks on how we can replicate the data so we don't lose anything over noise, and, you know, secure it with encryption and stuff like that. But essentially, it's if I'm sending you a 1, you're getting a 1. You're not going to misinterpret it as a 0, which happens all of the time in natural language, which I also believe is one of the reasons why some people see a lot of success with large language models and some people don't see any success with it. It's because you're losing the meaning in your conversation because you're not using a mathematical model to communicate. But of course, you can't use a mathematical model to communicate. You just have to be more specific. And there's tips and tricks that we have to get into that stuff. But yeah, I wanted to call that out.
It's so funny. I was talking with one of our clients, and she was using a large language model. She uploaded a picture, and she said, "Clean it up, make it look like this other one.
Yeah, do better.
And just don't mess it up this time."
Right.
And then it generated the image, and of course it wasn't in line with what she said. And she was like, "Oh my God, this thing is terrible. This thing sucks. It just can't get it right. It can get you this far, but it can't get you across the bridge. It can't get it right." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, we think that we're being clear when we're communicating and we're sending messages, but the things that people do really well, for better and for worse, is we reconstruct the message on our side, and that's really what's happening. We're sending information over, and then the other side is taking that information over and reconstructing it into something that is meaningful. But that whole reassembly process, especially outside of computers, can be a really messy process. And especially before this whole thing, it just wasn't even a thing.
A lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there. So yeah, 100%.
So without getting into like the details of the paper and stuff like that, that's the main thing. And so that's really puts this different lens on how to me, the beauty of computing. Like when you see a file, it's like, oh, this is, a compressed source of information that I can use to send things over more efficiently. Like, there's just a lot of cool things that fall into place with the understanding of the paper that he put out.
It's astronomically easier to move bits than it is to move atoms. In terms of like physical paper, physical notes, and stuff like that, and information that way, versus just sending electricity. And so he did like 3 things with that paper. He defined a new quantity, which would be like the bit in this specific domain. He gave a field for measuring, or he gave like a measuring stick, which would be entropy. And then he proved the upper bound, which is just the channel capacity, how much information can flow through a specific channel. And that's like, to me, that's just really dope. I think back and I'm like, I don't even know how that happens. I'm thankful for it, right?
But I'm not sure how it happened. So one thing that he also did that was pretty, or the way that he played his life out after, which was pretty conservative as opposed to how a lot of other famous inventors and scientists have, is that he was just like, hey, I'm gonna stay at Bell Labs, I'm going to stick to my own, and I'm not gonna get too exposed. I don't want to be exposed. And he had a lot of interest that he followed. He eventually got into the stock market and trading. And applied his mathematical rigor there. He had a 2-story shop that he would invent different juggling machines, unicycles, all of these different sorts of contraptions. He had like an AI mouse. That he was
which is still used today. They have a lot of robotic competitions that are send the robot through the maze
in honor of.
I don't know if it's in honor of, but I'm sure it's inspired by some of the things that he was showing.
Yeah.
But obviously the robots now are much smarter.
And he and there's a lot of cool meanderings that he took being a tinkerer. That's one thing that comes to mind with him. He's just a tinkerer. He's and he believed in himself, and so he's just a unique character in the sense that he really believed in his insights, and he followed his curiosities and passion. So.
Yeah, that's something that we see that a lot with some of the famous founders, is following that passion and stuff like that. But it's also interesting that he never really got the same kind of financial results that some of the other famous founders that we've covered have gotten in terms of billionaire status and stuff like that. Later on in his life, he was awarded a cash prize and an actual prize. I think it was from Japan, where they gave out, just noting his significant contributions to the world, and so there was some recognition for it, but certainly not in the likes that we've covered some of the other billionaire founders. Which I think is interesting. Do you think that was something that he decided to do by himself, or just how the cards laid?
I think it was a decision.
You think it was a decision not to do that? Okay.
Yeah, he had this rotating machine of all of his honorary doctorates, or this rotating machine that hung all of his honorary doctorates.
Paper,
he just, it wasn't a thing that he indulged in. And then there was a lot of interviews that he turned down. There was a famous just the whole backlog of interviews where he's just like, I'm not really doing that. And so I think if he wanted to pursue it, it was right at his fingertips, but it didn't interest him.
Yeah, imagine the kind of people that would be knocking your door down, trying to give you money as investors. If you were like, I'm Claude Shannon. I have all of this. I built modern computer.
Yeah, I invented a way to. Do you think that we see scientific breakthroughs like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we're seeing some. I think the transformer model is close. But it's, and I think that will be in the next 20, 30 years. We're gonna be like, oh my gosh, look at this paper that this person wrote at Google.
Attention is all you need.
Right. I think there are. I do feel like they are getting fewer and farther between, which is not the way it should work. Right? It should be building on each other, building momentum, and then hopefully exponentially. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like there's a step function where it's like we're pretty stagnant for a long time, and then it boom shoots up.
Okay.
That's not how I feel. Maybe that's my consumer brain. But yeah, I'm curious. Where do you think that all that scientific achievement is? Who's studying this stuff?
I think it's
taking it to the next level.
Part of me is thinking it's happening in a different form.
Okay.
A lot of this used to happen through universities, and you'd publish a paper and then go through that channel. This was with Bell Labs, but there's still a lot of papers that are being written, but it's happening at such a high volume that it's hard to keep track of the main monumental ones that are happening. They don't stand out as much, but they don't stand out as much. That's one thing. Another thing is that the papers before that we build on they're foundational to the ideas that we're building off of today. So it's hard to be more consequential than the person that set up your insight. Okay, what
if I'm standing on the shoulders of giants? Am I going to be taller than the giant?
Right.
Or stronger? Or
it's but I'm also standing on the shoulder of that giant. So
is it possible
it's holding me up?
Yeah, is it possible to be bigger, stronger, heavier than the giant that's holding you up?
Yeah, and when I think of the, for instance, Newton and Einstein.
Yeah.
Newton came up with gravity, amongst other
forces.
But Einstein pushed it further with relativity and then general relativity, with special relativity and then general relativity. And when I think of that, I'm like, both were giants, but you don't get the Newton, you don't get the Einstein without the Newton.
Yeah, that's true. I think, there's got to be things that are happening now that are just as important. But it's certainly, and I'm curious, like, how much of this was observed in his time, because we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have Wi-Fi, but
So one thing that came out is that it seemed like everybody was pretty, like, when he published the paper, they were like, this is the guy. And then he also complained of the bandwagoning. He was like, everybody's jumping on this and using it for everything. It's not meant to be used by everything. It's not meant to be used by everybody. Slow down, people. Relax. But I think he underestimated the impact of what he did.
I think so,
just societally, and how much it affected and changed everything. If you take him from the 40s and you drop him into today, he's going to look around and be like, yes, I can imagine this, but in terms of technical capability, but in terms of all of these different people that have built off of what he built, I think that's something that he might not have been able to quite grasp or comprehend. Just hearing about how he was like, guys, stop bandwagoning. It's like, no, everybody kind of needed to bandwagon what he did. Like, he didn't even, I don't know if he did, but I don't know if he predicted the internet. And
I mean, he was certainly around for it.
Yeah.
He died in 2001.
Yeah, but he had Alzheimer's at that time too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But to your point, it's like the 90s is when we started seeing more commercially, and then before that there was also different forms of the but I guess the magnitude of the internet,
the scale, I think, is, especially the scale of IoT devices. Everything is on the internet. Everything has an Alexa, has a microphone, has a Wi-Fi connection or Bluetooth connection. Something is connected at all times. And so I think the scale of that is certainly something that I don't think he could have imagined.
How operationalized it all became. How easy it is for, like, again, a kid can go in there and start playing with computers now, and that's all backed by what he put together. So I think, like, it's very intriguing. There was a story I was reading, or a little anecdote about how he met Steve Jobs. They crossed paths at one time. It was Steve trying to find him, of course, but that's also a pretty interesting tidbit. Because he had his faculties when the MacBook was launched, and he also did a lot of, I think in his later life he was trading on a MacBook.
Okay, so he was definitely, like, involved in some of the newer age technology that we would think of it as. But I mean, absolutely an influential character in American history, not just American, but a world history, I'd say. Someone that you'd be surprised, even in like computer science courses, they'll never talk about him.
Really?
Never.
You never had, like...
No need to. No need to. We understand that a bit is this, and we're moving forward. There might be one professor here or there that might, spend a little bit of time saying, hey, this is where we get it from. But for the most part, it's not a big thing to teach history.
That's so interesting, because even in business school, there's not a lot of history on the people in business and the impacts that they did. Like, we've done more in this podcast studying founders than you would learn in a specific business course, and I would even go as far as to say that it's more important stuff, because if you understand what we're talking about and then you go and take business classes, then you understand where it fits and why, because you give it more purpose. But if you just go in there and you're learning formulas and things blindly, it doesn't quite
be able to
stick.
apply it.
You can't apply it because it doesn't really stick, and so you're losing context. Charlie Munger said that if he were to go and learn business, he would just study the best business education is to study people that have been in business. Study the founders. So it's interesting that they didn't talk about Claude Shannon in CS schools,
but
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty common thing to forget your history.
Yeah. So you having gone through that process, how does that change how does diving into Claude Shannon change your perspective, if at all?
It certainly gives me like a lot more like gratitude for where we're at today, because it doesn't feel like to me like the 40s when he published these papers where that was that long ago. It is quite a bit ago, I guess. I mean, it's almost 100 years, but it feels like it's within, you know, my grandparents' lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's where it feels very close, where I'm actually surprised it was that short of a time ago and how much progress we've seen so far. I think it's just like good to understand a lot of those things from a fundamental level, know where they come from, even if it's not like applying something directly from his life. There are, just like being a generalist, there are things that I'll be able to pull on and pick up and apply later that I wouldn't have even been able to if I didn't, you know, look around more generally.
Yeah. I think another thing that's really interesting with him is just having the cojones to like not listen to other people and block other people out, and he was very, very clear on his ideas, and he was like, once I've gotten to the idea, I'm not like trying to fight you about it, like I've proven it. But we've heard that with other people too, that we've seen on this podcast, where once, you know, I've been able to prove it, I don't really need the outside confirmation outside of results. Like if it's not a practical, you know, provable, repeatable test against what I'm stating, then like I don't know what to tell you. You're wrong.
And I don't feel like I don't feel like I need to like, you know, fight against that. It's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Either you're gonna follow me or I'm gonna find the next person to talk to.
Yeah. So I like that. Do you have any main ideas that you want to go over here before we go into Super Secret?
Nothing we didn't cover. I think in Super Secret, I'm excited to get into the tips and tricks and the ways that we have found to communicate with noise, right? Because noise is everywhere, but to communicate effectively even though there is noise. Not only, you know, with our product and everything, but also like on the team, in the company, and those kinds of things. So I'm excited to jump into some of that stuff. I don't think I have anything for this specific public video.
So in Super Secret, we go over application, we go over the psychology, and then we just peel it back a layer. You know, we go a little bit deeper on what we're learning and how we're applying it and how we can share that with other people. So I'm really excited to go over there and jump into that.
Check us out, Super Secret, linked in the description below. And if you guys have a founder that you guys want us to cover, also throw that in the comment below.
Please.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.